Hi, I'm Alexa Fischer, and you are listening to the Wishbeads podcast. It is such a pleasure to welcome you to another episode where I share the stories of people that actually inspire me, whether they have had a remarkable story to share about Wishbeads or they're just remarkable people doing remarkable things in the world. And that is certainly the case with today's guest. Her name is Steph Johnson. She is the co-founder of Voices of Our City Choir. She is also a celebrated musician by her own right, but a woman who decided when she saw something that was wrong in the world, she invited the opportunity to listen to her heart and do something about it. And Voices of Our City Choir is serving the homeless community, the community of individuals who find themselves without homes, living on the streets of San Diego and changing their lives through music and advocacy, seeing them as humans and with dignity, love, and respect. And it's truly a remarkable story about the healing power of music, but also to me, just an incredible story of a woman who was ready to make a difference and used her talent and her time and her big heart to make an impact in the world. I love her. Anyway, I've been following Steph and her work for years and years. My dear friend Keith is a member of the choir and introduced us, and I've been inspired ever since. So I know that today's interview will spark your heart. I just know it. And to me, that is the energy of wishes and where your wish comes from. It's this little tug inside your heart that is beckoning you to use your creativity and this beautiful body and this experience that you have here on the earth to do something out in the world. That's your gift, whatever form that takes. So with Steph, it was music, and with you, who knows? Who knows? So here's Steph Johnson. I don't even want to tell you anymore. You just got to get right in there. Enjoy. Steph, this is absolutely a thrill to have you on the Wishbeads podcast because I have been a super fan for a long time. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alexa. It's awesome to do this. It's so awesome to partner with you, and the Wishbeads are awesome. Beautiful.
Yay. Well, I have been following your work. A dear friend of mine was involved in the choir for many years. And so I went to a documentary that really outlined how you got inspired to begin creating this choir for our unhoused community in San Diego. But I actually would love to hear your story directly from you for people that are new to what who you are and what you've done. Can you give us a quick recap?
Sure. So 5 years ago, homelessness in San Diego seemed to have exploded. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more people living unsheltered. And I started to educate myself, go to meetings, kind of figure out what's going on, why is this happening? Found out, well, there's a lot of myths and untruths about homelessness. People think people move to California to become homeless or to be, and it's just not true. People, have jobs that they lose or don't pay enough. Wages aren't matching the cost of living. And the moment that someone becomes unsheltered, they're seen as a criminal or they're criminalized by the, city or So I just was like, this is inhumane and I can't stand for this. This is just not happening. So I started to go out on the street and bring, food and blankets but really friendship. It wasn't anything super complex. It was really just conversation and friendship. And as I met people, they'd ask, well, who are you? And I said, well, I'm Steph. And they're like, well, who are you with? And I'm like, I'm with myself. I play music. And that opened up a conversation with every single person. Oh, I'm writing a book. Oh, I play an instrument. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And so I started this outreach. It kept kind of growing. It was in 2016. And then around the time, I met a pastor downtown who was serving the same population. And he was having a church service in kind of like a warehouse, like this beat up old, I say church, but it looked like a warehouse. Okay. With a sheet metal roof. And so he said, hey, if you want to come use our space for anything, feel free to do that. And right before that conversation, Alexa, and you could totally relate to this, I'm sure. It's kind of like when you told me about your own journey where like you were like had this epiphany and this thing kind of just happened. I met a man who was living on the street who invited me into his tent. We started talking. He told me what the barriers were for him. And I could see that he couldn't get out of it without an advocate. And I could see that he was being really pushed down by the whole system. So I said, let's revolt. I told him, I was like, let's go march down the street. I was like super green, super naive. And he looked at me and smiled and was like, it doesn't matter what we say. We don't have a voice. So that was like one, like a lightning rod, just like went into my brain and it really stuck to me. And then around the next day, I met a woman who, when she found out I sang, she said, Google my name. And so I Googled her name and she was singing in a choir that was based in Atlanta, I believe, a choir for people experiencing homelessness. And it's been around for like 20 years or 25 years. And so I see this article, I see her happy with all these other singers. And then I was like, oh, that's a concept. I was like, that's amazing. So back to meeting Chris Nafis, this pastor, he says, hey, if you want to use our church for anything. So I remember I was like standing in this grassy knoll, like I remember the time of day, it was the temperature. I mean, it was such a cosmic moment where I said, great, I want to start a choir. And he looked at me and he was like, okay. And as I said it, I was like, okay. And then, I had zero experience directing a choir or anything like that. I had worked as a band leader, of course, and putting on my own records. I've been pursuing music, writing songs. So I had that experience, but choir director, I didn't have that. So I called a friend, Nina Deering, who I had just met about 2 months earlier. And she was great. She was just as wild as me and loving and compassionate. And I called her up. I said, hey, we got a space. Would you want to start a choir with me for people experiencing homelessness? And she, without a second, said, absolutely. And so then the next day she came over with a couple charts. We started to do outreach to invite people to a rehearsal. Our whole intent in the beginning was just to have this safe space for people to gather, make music, use the restroom, just be treated with dignity, respect, and love, something that was so missing, right? And it grew and it kept growing. And then at the end of 2016, I was featured in this piece on the Union Tribune. They put me on the front page, okay, because during the time, right, like Trump had just gotten into office, like the temperament, what was happening in the world, it was like volunteerism was front page news, like what I was doing, okay. So all this attention came to us. And the interviewer said, oh, you're doing your holiday concert, will you have the choir there? Never thinking, Alexa, that the choir would ever perform. It was not the intent to become a performance ensemble, right? So I never thought of it. I go, oh, so I went back to the choir and I said, hey, do you guys want to do a gig with me? And they were like, yeah. I was like, okay. So we had about 16 choir members at the time. We rehearsed the 3 songs that we did and opened up the show. It was my holiday show with the guitar player from Earth, Wind and Fire, and my husband on bass, and my friend, like just a beautiful band. I opened the show and then I invite the choir out. And I was really nervous, like how will this audience respond to them? There was so much interest in the choir from the very beginning. There were like 350 people at that concert, which was like, so it was like really like high energy, like people were ready for the choir.
Wow.
And so they walk out, we didn't even know how to stand everybody. Like they came out to face Nina and they faced this way. Like if you're the audience, they were like this. but it was so pure. It was so raw. And we finished that first song and 350 people immediately jumped to their feet and started clapping and crying and cheering for them. Oh, it always chokes me up when I tell the story.
Over my whole body. Wow.
And so, and I, talked about it before in other interviews, but something really like that, like changed us and changed everything was that night in that moment where we witnessed the audience really honoring them, applauding them for their, their music or their being there and for being them. And then the choir members received that immediately, stood taller, and it changed them, right? Yeah. I was standing in the back of the room with my producer, Kamau Kenyatta, and we were, at the time I had just come out with this album and I took a break from touring because the choir kept growing and kept growing. And I was like, you know, I think I'm going to shelve that album, you know, and just stay put in San Diego and do whatever this is. And that night was the night that he stood in the back of the room and he was watching, and I was off the stage watching too, watching them sing. And he just said, okay, whatever this is, you're onto something. Like, keep doing it, you know? The very next day, after we took everybody back to where they were sleeping, which was around the church, the police came and ticketed everybody and took one person to jail. And so then it completely kind of inflamed the group, you know, like they were like, Steph, get down here. Like, it's crazy. Like, this is going on, this is going on. So luckily, thankfully, two dear friends of mine, Lori Saldana, a local activist advocate, and also Martha Sullivan, showed up in a bus, picked up 14 choir members, and we started a shelter. And we started sheltering them, learning firsthand. We zero experience with this, okay? Before I started this, I was like swimming in the ocean. I was playing guitar. I was touring. I was always a volunteer. I was always like a part of things. But something about 2016 and what I saw and what I had been through up to that moment that made me realize I didn't need any other organization to go be of service. I could go bring my brand of conversation and music and food to people, and that just felt like really easy and natural to me. So what transpired from that moment, like straight up, like what started with me sitting in a tent with like a bag of oranges and like my guitar, has now grown into a, you know, nonprofit that has multiple music programs. The choir is one program where we welcome people every week to come sing funk and R&B tunes with the band. And we have a great lunch afterwards. We have songwriting workshops, piano workshops. We have about 250 people in the choir. We've helped as using music as the medium, right, to build trust-based relationships. Yeah. We have helped about 80 people move off the street and into housing or safe shelter. I have zero experience with this, but I knew, and I could tell from my own experiences too. You know, my parents were divorced when I was 3, and my mom suffered some, you know, mental health challenges and physical challenges. And so we live below the poverty line, and I know things are out of your control. And I just learned how to make the best of my situation always, which is kind of what your upbringings kind of tend to do. You know, it's like, it's all meant to be in a cosmic way. But yeah, I just am so blessed. We are so blessed to be a part of a community, to create community for folks that have lost all that. And when you lose that network, friends, and you are completely vulnerable, and you're trying to survive every day, and you're not allowed to sit anywhere or use a restroom, or you're seen as a criminal, like that whole
yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So it started just kind of one person at a time. I'd post a story online. Hey, this is so-and-so, you know, they need XYZ, and I'm going to, you know, can we put them up in a hotel over the weekend and get them in a shelter? So I just learned how to build basically a network of resources and housing programs and treatment centers to help people, because there wasn't the piece that we do on the street. So we're at ground zero doing outreach, you know, 4 days a week. We have choir rehearsal 1 day a week. A lot of times those social services are behind a glass, behind a desk, and you have to make an appointment and you have to go in. Well, people that are suffering PTSD, that is a whole extra layer that is a barrier to just being triaged and helped and served where they are and building that relationship and that trust. So what Voices is a referral agency, really. I mean, choir doesn't feel like outreach, but it's outreach. And so
it is most certainly outreach.
Yes, but it doesn't feel like your typical outreach, right?
Of course not.
Yeah.
But I love Steph. I mean, thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's as powerful hearing it from you now as the first time I heard about the work that you're doing, because I just thank you. I think that your big heart saw a need, and without, quote, knowing what to do or having any formal experience, you leaned in with what you said, what was easy and natural.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, when people are in the business of making a wish come true, or doing something, that is tugging at their heartstrings, there's so many opportunities to bail and say, I can't do it. I don't know how. I don't have enough support. What if this doesn't work? What are people going to say? All the things. And instead, you just leaned in with what you knew and what you loved and what was your gift. And you started without knowing how it would go.
Oh,
And to
yeah.
me, it's just wonderful. And what a shining example for anybody listening or watching, that just to start there, like listen to the urge and take your talents and put them into action. Just put them into action.
Yeah. Move from your heart and do the thing that you do really well. Maybe it's like cleaning. Maybe it's like writing resumes. Maybe it's playing music. Maybe it's being a doctor. Maybe it's, whatever your skill is, whatever your thing is, find a place to go give, right? And there's something real cosmic about that space. When you go and show up in a service, I was just talking about this the other day, whenever I am volunteering or I'm using, I've moved myself aside and I'm making myself completely available to help another person or to help a situation or give of myself, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like there's a kind of like time stands still, time doesn't matter. And it's these little interactions of kindness and compassion that just give you back so much. It's so much more. It's not totally. So anyways, it just kept feeding itself and growing, and it attracted, housing navigators. It attracted, political folks. It attracted, the
Union Tribune.
The Union Tribune. And then Susan Polish-Schutz, who made the documentary, The Homeless Chorus Speaks, that aired on PBS. So right after we start sheltering the choir grew into 50 people. And I was like, whoa, like this happened overnight. And everybody was calling to book the choir. I told the choir, I had to hustle, to get gigs. The phone has never stopped ringing for people interested in inviting the choir to hear from the choir and to perform, and of course those events and performance opportunities have now shifted. Now we're doing conferences and videos and things for the governor to like local stuff, but we played sometimes 10 gigs in a month. And that's how with a group of people who've never performed before, learning those kinds of performance chops, right, on the gig. Think about all the things that go into doing a gig. Being on time, being present, we kind of take an oath we're going to be present and sober when we come together. It's about, coming together, using our voice to lift the voice of people experiencing homelessness that can't even speak anymore. You know what I mean?
Wow. And even empowering them with a sense of giving. So they're giving by just committing to whatever they're committing to, whether it's coming to choir practice or coming to a gig, or I love that the circle of giving and how empowering for them.
Well, it's like so many things, right? So performance so our mission is to change the perception and experience of homelessness through music. So we do it through music, choir care, which is our case management piece, and then also advocacy. But the performance piece, like I said, that first concert, when I witnessed the audience just applaud them and the choir stand taller and it like give them confidence and hope again, like in a moment. The performances are life-changing. They're really transformative. We just came back online, of course, post-pandemic. We moved everything online. We were teaching, we distributed laptops. We were on America's Got Talent. We had to like teach everybody's parts through the internet. It was like so intense. And then we started to come back over the summer, and we've been in a groove now, and the choir's growing again in live in person. But we've had choir members that have been with us now for only a month. And like one individual, she's signed up to go back to college actually. And she's singing on the mic, and it's just a new world. So they feel better, they feel lifted in the experience of getting to be a part of something, to share their gifts and to be seen and heard, and they're all welcome, right? It's a diverse group of people. Everybody's a space for all of us in the world. That's the other thing I love about the choir. But then the audience is immediately connected to the humanity of the whole situation. Yep. And you also, when you look at the choir, you pretty much will find someone that looks just like you. Which this is what we need to break through, is that the person on the street who hasn't been able to get a shower and hasn't been able to use a restroom and is having to go to the bathroom on the street because there's no restroom. It needs our compassion and understanding. What would it be like if that was you? What would you do? Where would you go? How would you deal with that? I mean, it's just unfathomable that people tend to blame the individual. And I understand that there's we have a bunch of issues, right? We've got we got systemic racism, we got the, that don't match the cost of living, and all these things compounded in the whole police and the whole prison system. And I mean, it's a big mess, but if we don't create a way to wrap around folks and offer opportunity or support, it'll just keep exploding. And I know Los Angeles is off the charts.
Off the charts.
Off the charts. So it is the number one issue in the state of California, number one. And I mean, we'll keep talking, but I'll tell you what I think we need to do, but you just keep talking.
Oh, I do want to hear that, but I have to back up a little bit because anyone
Sure.
listening may have heard the oh yeah, and we were on America's Got Talent. And I love the fact that you on one hand brushed over that because you're so excited about all the other good, important work. It lit your eyes up when you were talking about that individual who went back to college or went to college. And that is more important. But I also think for people who are on a journey of thinking about being part of the change that they want to see in the world, that you have no idea, no idea how your story will unfold. And you are an incredibly talented musician by your own right, busy as a musician, embarking on your career prior to having this idea of the choir, prior to listening to your heartstrings and saying, I got to do something about this. And yet, how wild to take a moment that your journey got you to a place where suddenly you are finding yourself on America's Got Talent. And
totally. Yeah.
Just
so
take
surreal.
a moment. Yeah. Can we just take a moment, just a brief moment to talk about that? Only because to me, that stage is not about, oh, we were on America's Got Talent, but really about the awareness of what you're doing. The fact that show watched by so many people,
tens of millions of people. Yes.
Yeah. So can we just talk about that for a second?
Yeah. Well, they reached out and asked if we would audition, and that was in 2019. At the time I was on my deathbed, running a nonprofit. You can exhaust yourself, especially starting something from the ground up. I was working 17-hour days back to back. Every year kind of gotten this kind of hiccup of kind of breaking down, either physically, emotionally, spiritually. But I'd pick back up and keep going thanks to my wonderful husband who was like, we got this, we can do this, and all the people around. But in 2019, I think I had caught COVID before COVID hit. And I was in and out of the hospital. And I just had no strength, it was really, really bad. And I was the one leading the gigs. I was the one leading the organization. I serve as the creative director, choir director, and the CEO of an expanding thing. And anyways, I said no. And AGT was like, no, we really want you. And John Tellum, we call it lovingly our momager, he was like, you said no to America's Got Talent. He's like, they're going to be calling back, I'm pretty sure. but the problem that it wasn't saying no to them, other than just we didn't have the capacity to go to LA and go do all that when we had people in crisis in the choir, people going through big challenges.
Right.
Finally, they said, okay, we're going to make it easy. We're coming to San Diego. We're doing auditions there. We'll give you a time slot. I said, okay, great. Thank you. Awesome producers with the show. We showed up. It was a wonderful experience. And then we didn't hear anything. And then in 2020, they called us in January or February and said, okay, you're going to be on the show in front of the judges. We were like, okay. And then they got us a bus, and about 50 of us went up to the Pasadena Theater. That was pre-shutdown. So it was the very last weekend, the very last Sunday that they had live performances, I'm pretty sure. Right after that, LA went into lockdown. So it was also, talk about those cosmic blessing little pieces.
Yeah.
Had that not happened, I probably wouldn't be chatting with you like this, because we were really struggling to get funds to prove to donors and people like
Yeah.
how music is helping people. So anyways, so back to this, we go on the TV show and we're there for the whole weekend and it's amazing. And people, we're being interviewed and we're sitting on the props and we're talking to the camera people and being totally authentic and real. The choir could not be real. And we were so real. And so it came to Sunday and we were going to come out and do our performance. We decided to do an original song. We have a songwriting workshop. So we did our song Sounds of the Sidewalk, which is written by our choir members, you know, what they hear when they wake up on the street, what they feel, what they see. So anyways, right before that, Terry Crews, the host, a wonderful human being, wonderful and immaculately dressed, he interviewed us. And I told him how we had used this music to build these relationships and that it had led to people moving off the street and getting back to connected to family and jobs. And he was like, wow. And I was like, yeah, right. He's like, yeah. So he got like the background of us, you know? So then we go out on the stage and Simon Cowell and the audience for America's Got Talent is the most enthralled. It's like they're on a roller coaster. They're like, oh my God. Like I've never seen faces like that in an audience before ever. So we walk out on stage and Simon Cowell's like, okay, obviously your choir, what's important and about your choir? And I said, well, we started this choir for people experiencing homelessness and 3,000 people stood up, just like that first concert. 3,000 people stood up cheering and screaming. My husband who plays bass, he's in the back. You know how when you laugh and cry at the same time, yeah. It's like a weird, like explosive emotion. I looked back at him and he was like, I was like, I know, it's just so overwhelming. So we talked about the choir. A couple choir members spoke. We were on the stage for like maybe 15, 20 minutes before we even sang. So anyway, so then finally it's time to do our song. We do our song and the audience is feeling it. And Patricia in the choir who wrote a spoken word piece is just incredible writer. I mean, and just before this, you know, she had been living unsheltered and it's just a horrible story. And she's such a great mind and such a great human being. And anyway, so she writes this piece, she's doing the performance and everybody's losing their minds. And we finished the song. We got like 5 standing ovations, like during the song and at the end, which they don't really show in the, you know, in the TV thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all the judges say their thing, you know, like Sofia Vergara and like all super sweet. And then it gets to Simon Cowell and he says his thing and that's it. And I was like, okay, is this it? Like, really? Okay, all right. And then all of a sudden Terry Crews comes off the side of the stage and he's like, hold up. This choir is not just talking the talk, they are walking the walk. And we need more of this in America. We need more of this in our communities. And was saying all this stuff. The audience is losing their mind because he's in the audience, okay? Like roller coaster, like screaming, okay? The choir is losing their mind behind me. The choir's like, push the buzzer, like they're screaming. And he's like, so then he goes back there and he does his like, okay, I'm giving you the buzzer. And like, this also makes me choked up, but like seeing like the choir members reach for the golden confetti and like how, I know it's a TV show. I don't even own a TV, okay? I know, like, I mean, but for a group of people who were some living on the street still, some living in their cars, some living like without anything, to get that kind of validation and attention and awareness was so life-changing, and it changed our reach, people knowing about the nonprofit, people knowing about us. So once the pandemic hit, thanks to that first initial performance, we generated about like $80,000 in donations, which for us at the time was, I mean, that is so massive for us.
It's amazing.
That helped us distribute laptops. That helped us, you know, keep our senior choir members housed. That helped us like open up a 5-day week phone charging station, hygiene kit distribution, case management, drinking water, clothes, food, socks. Like, I mean, it totally helped our organization become like what it is right now. So as hard as it was as an independent artist to be on a television show where everything's super reverbed and sounds kind of the same, we got to be ourselves, and Terry felt that, and the audience felt that, and it put us through the show. We learned so much being on that show.
Wow.
The choir members all learned their parts over Zoom. Then they had to come into the studio in front of like 3 cameras, big NBC, AGT cameras, a choreographer, super cool choreographer, a producer, a whole huge crew to walk in and stand in front of a green screen and sing, because then they were cropped out and hologrammed in to using movie special effects. So talk about it was so much that we all learned. But at the end of all that, I'm talking to you from our studio. Our friends at Studio West in San Diego helped us build a studio. We taught engineering to our choir members, some choir members that were interested in learning engineering. We made music videos and mixed, mastered, recorded. I mean, it's given us, it taught us so much. I was like in the beginning of all that thinking, how are we going to be on this television show during a pandemic when you have to be 10 feet apart, and singing, you have to be really far apart. Like there's no way. And they found a way. And as much as it was so excruciatingly challenging, because also we're running the nonprofit with barely any dollars, keeping people alive and together on the street, we were also participating in a hugely, huge television show. So, but we survived.
Steph, I mean, I
survived.
can't even get my head around all of this.
I know.
And how rich and how deep. And I also happen to know that you were quite ill at the same time. And so,
yes, a lot of people didn't know that I went to the last taping for AGT. I went in a wheelchair, and my little momager was like, "Don't take any pictures of her in a wheelchair." Just like, but I had pushed myself so much that my back used to go out. I wasn't exercising and taking care of myself. So as soon as things stacked up on me and were really stressful, my back would just stop working, and I literally couldn't get off the floor. So right before that final semifinals taping, I was miraculously got off the floor and had those little buzzer pads on your back, and I got in my and I went up to the LA flat in the car, and then little by little every day I got a little bit better, and then so by the time we were on TV filming, I could stand. But I pushed myself to the brink to do it.
Oh, okay. So we're going to also, I often say this with wishing, you can also be very clear about how you wish to receive said wish. So we are bringing much more grace and abundance and ease to your journey. You are a master manifester, and I can see that, but we can also improve or refine how we receive things so that the awareness of taking care of yourself, because clearly you are a woman on a mission. And so helping yourself does help other people.
Well, I think I might have told you before, but when I had this in 2016, before I started the choir, and I was doing all this outreach, and I saw these people suffering, and I was out there doing whatever I could, I had a conversation with God. I call it God, whatever you call that higher thing that's connected to you, and it's in you and you can communicate with. I dropped to my knees and I prayed in my bedroom, and I said, "Hey God, I just want to let you know that I see what's going on, and I want you to know that you can use me for whatever you want to do. I'm completely yours to be used." And God was like, "Are you sure? Because it's going to be like super hard. It's going to be crazy." And I was like, "I don't care. I'm willing to die for it," is what I said. And so every year I almost collapsed, every single year. And then it wasn't until this year that I had my first mental break, where I had completely fatigued my mind, right? Like pushed myself so far that I was scared of my life. I didn't recognize myself in my life. It didn't feel good. And my therapist, God bless my therapist, she goes, Steph, if you die, you can't do your mission. So
if you're motivated by your mission, let's be clear.
Right. So, it took that kind of effort in the beginning, just throwing myself in it to build it. But absolutely, what we all need to learn is that balance. The balance and that it is okay to take time for yourself. In fact, you have to. You have to exercise. You have to eat well. You have to, and you want to, because that's for you and that's sacred. And if you can carve out those times, you can do anything. You could do anything in your world, you know, but you just got to bookend it with some exercise and some rest.
Yeah.
So I learned that. I took all that to learn it.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I mean, there's so much about your story that I find so incredibly inspiring. And I am so happy that you are doing the work that you're doing, the necessary, important, creative work. Because I think we forget that we can get so overwhelmed with the challenges that this world is facing. And yet we have this unbelievable ability to use creativity to provide a solution that brings joy and empowerment, that reimagines something. And so what you've done with Voices of Our City Choir is so inspiring. And now we have something new that hopefully we can add to that equation. For those of you who may not know, we've collaborated on a new style of Wishbeads. It is a black banded agate, available in small and large sizes. But I am so honored that, well, first of all, we're going to kick this off in December by doing an experience for the actual choir, which, I feel so honored to be able to work with.
I was thinking about it too, and how, because you're also going to come and speak to and distribute some bracelets that you've offered to give to the choir members, which is going to be so awesome. But since our holiday event is before that, yes. I already know when we announce this from the stage that we have these bees in the back, I'm going to have to tell the choir, and Alexa has promised to give you all a bracelet. You all get one so that they know they get one.
Absolutely.
We want one. They're so beautiful. When I got it, you sent it through our friend Keith, and he brought one for my husband and one for me. And I stuck it in my purse. And then the next day I pulled it out and I opened it up and I saw that little chamber in there and all the little papers. And there is so much power in writing down what you want to do, right? It's some about it. There's something about writing it down. So I immediately wrote down, okay, it's time for us to build housing, right? So I wrote down, my first thing is like to create housing. And then I was like, oh, no, we need to have a shelter and housing, right? So I put that on my bracelet and I wear it. I told you, I wear it on the days that I'm fully committed to having those meetings and talking, because as soon as I have it on and I'm open, the phone doesn't stop ringing, like I'm meeting with land use experts, developers, political, the county, funding streams to figure out how it happened. So this is like a big deal for us to be such a baby organization, but to realize and recognize that in the center is the catalyst. If we can bring all these people to us, then we should do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say no.
Totally can do it. Yeah.
I'm not going to say no just because I never done it. I didn't know how to do this. So I figured that out. So why don't I figure this out? Because we need more housing and we need to treat people where they are, and we need to, do all the things, and we're looking into it every day. But the bracelet and the gift of this, and it's just wonderful, Alexa. We're so excited to have these Wishbeads. It'll be with us at our shows and online, and help us, with fundraising, but also for people to be connected to their own wish. Their own wish is so important. How beautiful. I just can't wait for the choir members to write their wish down,
Oh, I can't wait.
I know.
I can't wait. We may have to figure out a way to give them their wishes before the actual thing that we do together. We'll have to figure that out.
I know.
We'll figure it out. Whatever. Just details. But I'm so inspired by you, Steph. I really am. This has been an extraordinary honor to just know of your work. In fact, I wrote about you in my book, Wishwork, because I was so impressed by, what you had done. And then here we are, sometimes you plant a seed of just meeting somebody. I heard the choir sing, I watched the documentary, I took my son, I wrote about your book, and I've kind of followed you. And then you realize, like, I'm just going to be friends with her and maybe we'll play together. And it's been such an extraordinary privilege to watch you, and now such an honor to know you. And I can't even wait to see what we cook up together.
Yeah. No kidding.
But
Yeah.
I honestly, can you share, how people can find you, how people can donate directly?
Yeah.
Um,
So we have a website, voicesofourcity.org. You can go to voicesofourcity.org/donate if you want to go straight to that page, but it's great to have you come and visit the page and check us out. We also are all over social media, and we've got, Facebook and Instagram and all those things. We have a newsletter that we send out once a month. So go to the website, sign up and see. $1 helps us buy coffee. We build relationship with people that are living out there who don't have some of those things that we just take for granted. I mean, whether you say you do or you don't, it's so hard to not just go, okay, it's the morning, I get to have my coffee. But when you don't have any money and you don't have that, that's a luxury. So that's one thing that we offer that is super delicious. We serve about 200 to 300 cups of coffee a day with as many coffees as the person wants. We serve about 150 to 200 people a day out of our outreach. And if somebody can fit 4 cups of coffee in their hands, we'll give them 4 coffees. You know what I mean? But they love the coffee. And that is a piece that we want to provide and give to people. So $5 to some people give $100 a month or more. You can always reach out to me if somebody's interested in maybe supporting one of our programs or learning about some other specifics that we do. If there's a gift or something else you want to hear about, but it all goes into this beautiful thing that serves and helps now. We've helped I think I might have said 80 people move off the street and into housing or safe shelter. That's with our programs that are out there that we partner with. And just 2 weeks ago, we were able to get a woman off the street who's been unsheltered for 25 years. And the reason that she was out there, there are programs that exist. If you can navigate them while you're struggling to survive, amazing. But the programs that exist generally are really there for people that are, maybe addiction issues, or they're in and out of the hospital. Because she didn't suffer those things or have those issues, she really wasn't eligible for anything. So we had to work so hard to get her into this program. And so we are working with this wonderful group, and now she's, on her road, and she's an incredible singer. Incredible.
Wow.
And she's one person that we're watching her journey now unfold. And you know how 5 years, I mean, it takes a while for you to really know the ins and outs of what you're doing, 5 years in, we just celebrated our 5-year anniversary this year, and we really have a wonderful team, great case management, and we're growing and learning more, but we can really kind of now see this journey, through being connected to the community, connected to music, opportunities, performing, using their voice to speak up to city council, or if they become an advocate, or they maybe volunteer, become a peer support to somebody else who's unsheltered. So the journey is so cool to witness.
Steph, it's it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I think it's you had no idea what you were going to learn and how this was going to go. But I so commend you that you just kept going. You just kept doing and creating and figuring it out and trusting the process, and sometimes even saying no and then saying yes and saying okay. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I just so thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank
And homelessness is such an intense crisis. And when you can change one person's life, that energy, that miracle has a ripple effect that I'm sure you and I don't even understand. So I just thank you for the good work you're doing.
Well, even just a person that comes into a rehearsal for the first time.
Sure.
I remember watching one of our choir members, Juan. It was in the very beginning, 5 years ago, we started our rehearsals, and he was coming, and he left that rehearsal singing one of the songs we did with kind of skipping down the street. And I was like, wow, Juan's going back to his, the street he's sleeping on right now with joy. And that's, and he went, that's not a vibe that's out there when you're trying to survive. I mean, it's hard to come by. So I just, it's you notice these little things. You're like, oh, this person's really feeling this. And you're right. You don't know how that's going to come back to an area, but the the yes, we can, the we believe in each other, there's space for all of us to be together. Like when the choir members talk about their experience or they talk about what it means to them, it's beyond. It's like when you talk about like it's truly, it's a miracle, it's amazing, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable, all right. It's so cool.
It's so cool.
Thank you.
Steph.
Thank you. Thanks for following the journey, and thanks to anybody who's gonna watch this and listen to us talk this long. It's wild, but
it's inspiring. And I know there's actually more that I wanted to ask you, but I think I'm going to save it for a follow-up episode.
Oh,
I think I'm going to save it for a follow-up episode. So thank you,
Oh.
Steph. I am beyond inspired by you. I am so, I'm a super fan. What can I say?
I'm a super fan of you. This is so exciting. And now we're going to get to see each other in December, and it's the end of the year, and we made it through, and we're getting into some more good, and it's good.
Yep. Yep. May the road open.
Yes.
May the road open and all good things. Thanks, Steph. Oh, stay amazing. I will definitely need a follow-up interview.
All right. You got it.
Whew. Yes, I told you wouldn't be disappointed, and Steph is all that and more. Her work is beautiful. I do hope you'll check out their website, donate, spread the word. Hopefully you can see a concert at some point. And just as a quick reminder, we have created the matte banded agate bracelet available in big and large smalls. Small. That doesn't make sense. In big sizes and small sizes. To support, a portion of those proceeds goes back to Voices of Our City Choir, because we believe in the work they do, and I am just so thrilled to be collaborating with them with this latest Cause Collection bracelet. So stay amazing, my friend. Keep positive. Keep hopeful, keep proactive, because your wish makes a huge difference, and you will never know what that impact will be until you get started. So happy wishing.